Okay, in this next, or probably next two videos, we're going to look at kind of like it's a subset off the multiplication rule, and there's these things called permutations and combinations. And the first thing I'll say about them is that when you're choosing things and the order matters, you're going to use permutations. When the order doesn't matter, like you're picking toppings on a pizza, you use combinations. But back to the example for when order matters, that would be like if you're picking a lineup, or you're ranking your 5 favorite musicians. All right, if the order matters, permutations, and I'll show you a way to remember that. Well, I'll tell you right now. When you see the P in permutations, think president, vice president, treasurer, or whatever. All right, what does that mean? Well, when let's say you had the student body of 100 people and you had to choose like one class president and one vice president. Well, if Sally's the president and Mikey's the vice president, that would be like 1 and 2, order matters. Versus like Mikey's the president and Sally's the vice president, that would be a different outcome. So that would be an example where order matters, where you're choosing a president and a vice president. If you're choosing a committee, so let's say you had 2 people, like 2 commissioners or a committee of people where they had equal power. Well, if Mike and Sally are the leading committee of your class, right, together they're going to make decisions about your class. If I did it the other way, Sally and Mikey versus Mikey and Sally, it's the same thing, so you wouldn't count that as 2 different events. That's just one event where Mikey and Sally share the role of, the committee. All right, so president, permutations, order matters. Committee, combinations, order doesn't matter. So an example of a permutation would be like ordering, right? That's a key word right there, order. How many ways can you order 5 textbooks in your locker? So let's say you have them stacked up, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Like how many ways can you do that? Well, let's say you got a math, history, science, gym textbook, and a foods textbook. All right, well, out of those 5 subjects, any 5 of them could be the first textbook. All right, and then once you pick that to be your textbook on the top, then, all right, any of these 4 could be the next textbook, and then any of the 3 could be the next textbook, and then any of these 2 left could be the next textbook, and then whatever one's left over is the last one by default. All right, so that's the same thing as 5 factorial. So when you're ordering, you can use factorials. So you can either multiply that out, but for bigger numbers, you're going to want to know how to do this on a calculator. So let me show you. Okay, so to do 5 factorial on the calculator, you're going to hit whatever, 5, so you're doing 5 factorial, and then the button next to the G, it looks like a question mark, an exclamation point. You're going to click on that, and then click on the exclamation point, and you get 5 factorial. All right. Okay, now in that example, we had 5 textbooks and ordered all 5 of them. But most permutation problems, you're going to choose like a subset of all 5 things. So like, let's say, like the first example I gave, let's say you were picking a president and a vice president of your class of 100 people. How many ways can you do that? Well, any of the 100 people could be the president, and any of the 99 people could be vice president. So there would be, 9,900 ways to do that. In permutation talk, that would be 100 P2. All right, out of 100 people, choose 2 people, and the order matters. That's why we use P there. All right, order matters, you use permutations. So that would look like this. It would be 100 factorial over 100 minus 2 factorial, which is 100 factorial over 98 factorial, which if you expand that out, the 98 times 97 times 96 will all cancel out, and it would equal 100 times 99. So let's do another example. So let's say you were making a baseball lineup for 9 people. So in baseball, you have 9 people that bat in the same order all game, and when the 9th person gets out or gets a hit or whatever, you go back to the top of the order. Now, most baseball teams have more than 9 people on it because people get hurt, miss games, whatever. So let's say you had 15 players and you wanted to order them in a 9-person lineup. Well, how many ways can you do that? Well, that would be 15, because it's 15 people total, that's N, P9, which if we write it out as a permutation would look like this. 15 factorial over 15 minus 9 factorial. You have to do the minus part first because it's in parentheses. So that would be 15 factorial over 6 factorial, which if you expand everything out and cancel out, it would look like this. Alright, so this part would simplify to that if you expanded it out. So you got 15 people who can bat in the leadoff spot, and then once someone bats in the leadoff spot, they can't bat in any other part of the order. Alright, so that's the guy batting first, and then there's 14 people who could bat second, and then 13 people who could bat third, alright, and so on and so forth, and that's 9 things being multiplied together. Alright, now you don't need to really do this, because you could just type this onto your calculator, and you'll get the same answer as this. So, let me show you how to do that on the calculator. So if you remember that we used NCR for combinations when we did the binomial theorem, we're going to use NPR for permutations. So remember, it was 15 people, and we're choosing 9 in a specific order. Order matters. So if Charlie bats first and Jake bats second, that would be the same thing. That would be different, a different lineup if Jake bats first and then Charlie bats second. So I'm going to hit that. So there's a lot of ways you can do that. All right. So 15P9, and last but not least, show you it's the same thing as doing 15 factorial over, over 6 factorial, which I got from 15 minus 9. It is. Alright, and if we got Charlie leading off and Jake batting second, we know Liam is going to be batting third to drive them all in.